Hey guys, what's up? I'm Jack Marlowe with Better Barkeep here, and today we're talking the basics of bourbon. There are pretty much three criteria, or the ABCs of bourbon. A, made in America. B, it must be aged for at least 2 years in new charred white oak barrels. And C, its grain mash is at least 51% corn. Having that 51% corn mash lends it to have a little bit of a sweeter flavor than rye or scotch or other whiskeys. Here, we've got three examples of bourbon: Bullet, Basil Hayden, and Knob Creek. So one thing about bourbon that's a little misunderstood or a bit of a myth about it, I'd say, is that it has to be made in Kentucky. That's not essentially true. It can be made anywhere in the United States. However, it is thought that the best bourbon comes out of Kentucky for a couple different reasons. Most of Kentucky's water sources are naturally limestone filtered. Bourbon producers think that this is best because it gives it a naturally better flavor. It's more pure. Two is the climate. Kentucky gets really hot, really humid in the summer, but then it also gets quite cold in the wintertime. In the summer heat, bourbon expands into the wood, and then when it gets cold, it restricts, the wood is restricted and brings the bourbon back into the barrel. And so years of expanding out and contracting back in picks up more of the flavor that the oak provides. Very similar to bourbon is rye whiskey. You notice here, these are the same ones that we just went over here, but these brands' version of a rye. Where bourbon's grain mash is made up at least 51% corn, with rye's a majority rye mash. Basically, having a higher rye grain mash is going to provide a little spiciness and a little pepperiness to the whiskey. Ryes are great in Manhattans, Sazeracs. Sazeracs actually call specifically for a rye, but then people like them in old fashions too, because it kind of the pepperiness of the rye counterbalances the sweetness from the simple or whatever sugars you're adding to the old fashioned. Technically, it can't be called a bourbon because it doesn't fit up to the same criteria. All right, ABCs of bourbon. A, made in America. B, aged in new charred white oak barrels. And C, the grain mash is at least 51% corn. Rye, made the same way, its grain mash is going to be over 51%. 51% or over. There we have it, guys, the basics of bourbon and a little bit about rye. Next time, let's check out the rest of the whiskeys. There's so much out there. Irish, Japanese, Scotch, bottled in bond. What the fuck does that mean? Single barrel, small batch, new oak, used oak, charred oak. What makes the difference of all these? We'll cover those in the next video, guys. Once again, thanks for watching. I'm Jack Marlowe with Better Barkeep. We'll see you next time. Rye's grain mash is 51%.
Happens. Not important, is it?